So yes, I have heard the chatter back and forth about how fair or unfair the student loan forgiveness is. And so in all of that madness, there is one special group that is undeniable that this is fair for that particular group because they're the ones that hold a ton of debt and have the least chances of paying it off. Stick around and let's talk about it. Well, hello and welcome to College Planning for Underdogs, and I am your host, Nicole Renee. And yes, underdogs, there is a specific group that is the most vulnerable group in all of this student loan forgiveness conversation, and that is the status of an independent student. But before I jump into that, if you were not here before, just remember that the government is going to forgive $10,000 for students who make less than $125,000 a year or $250,000 for a couple. And if a student received a Pell Grant at some time, they will be forgiven of $20,000, of course, if they fit in those income requirements. And so the link has not dropped yet for the application. That is said to drop sometime in October. However, current students or students who have recently completed the FAFSA and received money as of last year, from what we're told, they don't even have to do an application because they're already in the system and the documentation that the government needs is in there already. So guys, if you are a current student or you just did last semester, go into your FAFSA account at studentaid.gov if you can get in there, because the last time I tried to get in there, it was kind of shut down. But you go into that app online and it'll show you how much you owe, and there's a green circle and a blue circle that determines which one you get, which category you in, right? All right, so now independent students. Why am I talking about independent students today? So when you're trying to apply for government aid, you are two statuses. You are either an independent student or a dependent student. And so a dependent student is that student that receives care from their parents, right? They either live with their parent or guardian, and or another parent or guardian does not live with them, but they provide finances for that particular student. So that's the easiest way to define it, right? Now, an independent student is a student that has no parent or guardian to support them, right? So I'm gonna go through my trusty cheat sheet so I won't have to keep looking all over my screen. So the status is they are married. It may be a student that has a child and they take care of the majority of their finances. Not that they live with their parents, but that they live on their own and they're supplying the majority of the finances for themselves and their child. Is it a person that was in the military? Were they adopted after a certain age? Are they foster students? Are they a graduate or professional student? Are they an orphan, a ward of the court? And are they homeless or at risk of homelessness? So those are a few, actually most of the criteria to be considered independent. There's some other quirky things in there, but for the most part, those are the students that fit that criteria, right? And so I'm going to focus right now on the adults and the married people because most of them do work, right? Right now, I'm going to focus for the rest of this video are for the students that are currently high school students and fit the criteria of homeless, that fit the criteria of orphan, ward of the court, or a foster child, or has been adopted, because in most cases, they don't have a parent to take care of them. And so there are a number of college campuses that have things in place for independent students to be able to get aid, all right? And so you just fill out the application or the FAFSA application, and on that application, there's a designation to cross off. So of course, if you do cross that off, in a lot of cases, the government will ask for what's called a verification with some supporting information to ensure that the students do meet that status. But let's look here. If we have a student that is in one of those special categories as a current child or current student, even if they do get assistance for college, right? When they graduate, a lot of them still don't have anywhere to go. And so these categories of students, they'll be able to borrow more money than a dependent student, right? They're going to be able to borrow more money, and colleges will bend over backwards to provide more aid for these particular students, right? And if the student has stellar grades, there's even more monies to be given out to those students. Some schools actually have programs for students that are homeless, students that are foster children, have been in award of the quarter in the system. And so they have some accommodations for housing, accommodations for possibly tuition, some mentors, some tutoring, all kinds of special services that they have on campus. So every college doesn't have this service, but there are a number of schools that do, right? So with this though, if the students are able to borrow more money, that means they're going to get in more debt, right? All right, now, so before I continue, we need to make sure you guys are hitting the like button, hitting that subscribe button so that you can continue getting this amazing college planning information for underdogs. All right, so hit that button right now. So let's talk about this money that students are able to borrow. So if a student is a dependent student, and loosely we said those are students that do have parents, one or two parents that are able to assist them with their college information for the FAFSA. Students are able to borrow $5,500 for the first year, $6,500 the second year, $7,500 the third year, and $7,500 the fourth year, okay? But as a dependent student, those students are able to borrow $9,500 the first year, $10,500 the second year, $12,500 the third year, and $12,500 the fourth year, right? So that's great. They can borrow more money. But what that means is that they have more money to pay back, okay? That is going to be $45,000 that student has borrowed from the government to go to school. Now, those students, of course, will max out the amount of federal grants and state grants or whatever their state, gives them, but that's still a lot of money for them to make up. And so that is why a number of these schools have these programs to be able to assist them financially. But when some of these student populations graduate from college, they still may not have anywhere to go, and or they do get a good job or a job that they can start paying off their loans. And they have some situations where they can start paying it, but in a lot of cases, they're still by themselves as far as support. A lot of these students don't have parents or guardians or grandparents to help them. And so that's why this group, in my opinion, is the most vulnerable group. And this is a blessing that they're going to be able to get that money excused. So these students are going to be able to get $20,000 excused, but they still have at least $25,000 more dollars. That is if they took all of the loan amounts. All right. So just as you guys are going back and forth about it, is it fair? Is it not fair? For the students who are independent students, particularly vulnerable children, this is fair, right? These are our underdogs. All right, guys. So this is the part of the video where we're getting some tea and I got to whisper. Some of you guys, if you live in the state of Pennsylvania, there is a grant called the Chafee Grant. I think that's how it's called. It's CHAFEE, but it is a grant that a student can apply for, right? And they can get some monies from the government. So these are students that have been in foster care, right? And maybe sometimes unaccompanied youth. And our Governor Wolf, also passed a bill either last year or 2 years ago, where they can also go to school tuition free for schools in the state of Pennsylvania. Tuition free, right? And so they still have to come up with some money for that room and board, which could also be satisfied via the Chafee Grant and just monies that they're getting from the federal government. So for some students, it still might not pay off everything, but for some students, it will take care of most of it, if not all of it, right? So just make sure that you guys check in with your school counselor, check in with your caseworker, and of course, you can contact me, right? And we can talk about these things. So if you are a student that fits this criteria, or if you are a guardian or a case manager or someone who works with this population, make sure that when they are checking out colleges on their list, you want to see if there are services at these particular schools. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you learned a lot about independent students. So again, if you have not subscribed to our page or like this video or any other, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and click the subscribe, because you know you like the video and you know you love this channel. All right. So make sure that you subscribe. And again, if you need any assistance getting ready for your college planning process, it doesn't matter what grade you're in, 9th and 10th grade, there is a ton of information that needs to be learned by the time the 12th grade rolls around. So guys, check down in that subscription box, down in the description box, and make sure that you click the link for a free 15-minute consultation, and then we can have a discussion and see where we're going to go from there. All right. So you have watched College Planning for Underdogs, and I'm your host, Nicole Renee. Hope you guys have a great day, and hit that subscribe button.